Welcome to our commercial real estate series, Behind the Building, giving the audience a behind-the-scenes look at different aspects of commercial real estate, featuring industry professionals and leaders who we work with every day to make it all happen. With me today is Joel Harper, Central Carolina Director of the Small Business and Technology Development Center, who works with small businesses all over North Carolina. Joel and I live in the same town of Hillsborough, North Carolina, and attended the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Welcome, Joel.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here, and I'm most impressed that you got the job title and company title all out without stumbling. I should have you say that 3 times fast and see how that goes.
Oh, I've practiced. I've practiced. So, Joel, I wanted to have you here as a guest because small businesses are the heartbeat of America's economy. In fact, about 59 million people are a part of our U.S. small business community, and it accounts for about 43% of our GDP,
Yes,
gross domestic product. So
correct.
there's no wonder that in 1984, from what I had researched, the SBTDC was created to help boost North Carolina's small business ecosystem. So let's just get to it.
Sure.
Yeah.
You're exactly right. Fun fact, most business owners are aware of SBA loans when they want to purchase real estate, buy a building, gut and redo a building, buy equipment, working capital loans. Here's the fun fact. The SBA actually does not lend money, does not lend a dime. What the SBA does is underwrite, or rather guarantee, a percentage of the loan to the lender. That makes the borrower more attractive to the lender, and thus more loans get done. And what the SBA realized all those decades ago was that business owners are actually very good at making their widget. But widget making doesn't necessarily make a business owner an expert or sufficiently adept at financial planning, reading and understanding her own financial statements, managing people, borrowing money, attracting investors, paying off investors, buying out partners. We were formed to provide no cost, private, confidential, professional counseling, business counseling to these business owners in all of these areas that enables the business owner to make that widget well and profitably. So that's who we are, and that's what we do. It's a pretty simple message. People can understand that. What's not simple is our company name, of course, SBTDC. Horrible acronym. You can't remember the order of the letters. And when I say the name of us, Small Business Technology Development Center, you still don't know what we do. So
Right.
that aside, we're a government agency that helps businesses grow.
Mhm. That's awesome. And one key part that I realized is that it's a confidential service. And I think that's incredible that our small businesses have you available to
Yes.
them to be able to, be their counselor, as you call it. You've called yourself a sounding board, CFO team for the business owners.
Right.
When business owners are looking to venture into real estate, what do you tell them? How do you advise them?
To touch on your counseling notion, thank you for bringing that up. The fact that our counseling is private and confidential is actually codified in the enabling legislation that chartered us. So that's on the books, government law. You know, I've had clients say, I'm behind on my taxes. We don't pick up the phone and rat them out to the IRS. We certainly counsel them, let's get that going, because sooner or later they will find you. I'm not sure about my sales tax situation or my payroll tax. Thank you for coming. This is private, this is safe, but we address those things. So that being said, to your main question, um, you folks will come to us. nine times out of 10, um, they're when it comes to real estate, which is your audience, your listening audience, usually they're already in a space. They don't need us to help them find a space. What they usually come to us for is when they've outgrown that space and they're ready for bigger space.
Hmm.
We don't help them find the space. That's still your job. But what they say is, we're ready to own. Is it better to own versus continuing our lease? We need someone to help us run the financials to make that, to see if that's doable. And because we are in the loan business, the SBA loan business, yeah, we've got all the charts and the graphs and the software that makes that happen. And your side probably does too. But a lot of what we do is running projections. You can afford this amount at this interest rate. And if for this kind of a down payment, if you can come up with that, you can afford to borrow this. You can handle the debt service of this kind of a loan. And that enables you to get the space of your dreams.
Hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. So you alluded to it, some of the tools, market research,
Yes.
calculations that you have available to you. What does that look like as it helps your small businesses?
Sure, sure. We don't certainly have a database of available properties. Again, that's your bailiwick. We don't need to replicate what you're doing admirably. We've got a fantastic research team at our state headquarters office in Raleigh. And what they can help with is saying, all righty, you want to, plop your business down in downtown Durham, let's say. Okay, who else does what you do within X miles radius of that location? Is that important to you to know that information? We'll get that information. That's what our databases will say. And so, is that really the best spot for you economically, the right mix? Or we'll say, okay, who are your customers? Who buys your service? Who buys your product? What's their income level? What's their demographic? And how many of those people live within X miles or radius of where you are? How far does the average person drive to buy your service versus just they'll just go to someone else because they're physically closer? Okay, how many of those people are within the radius footprint of where you want to go? So we help people with that type of research to help them hone in on, is that the best location for their business?
Right, that's great. What would be some of the common mistakes you see owners make if they see a property that's just perfect for them and you feel like they're rushing into a lease or a purchase decision and they're not really checking it against their business plan or financials? How do you help them work through that and help them
Agreed.
pause?
Agreed. You hit the number one is, by golly, the trade term is, does it pencil? Does it, can you afford the rent or the mortgage payment, the debt service if you're borrowing money to buy a place? That's first and foremost number one. But we'll throw a few questions out as they come to us and say, well, this is what this place is going to cost us. Then we will say, okay, number one, who fixes what? Who does fix the HVA system when that goes out?
Mhm.
We get it that you'll do your own painting, and but what if a pipe breaks? Um, there's that. Are there CAM charges, common area maintenance? And what does that cover? And do you know what that dollar amount's going to be? Did you factor that in to your thinking? Oftentimes we get a yes, but sometimes we get what's a CAM charge? Oh, well, just how to educate them on that. Sometimes we'll say, look, make sure you know who pays the property tax. Do you understand what a full service lease is, a triple net lease, a double net, single net? It's, who, make sure you know who pays for what. Make sure it's all written out in the lease. If you're renting, of course, so there's no surprises tomorrow. And then, from the lender side, what they'll say is, hey, if you want to borrow, a 10-year working capital loan, just independent of real estate, let's say, the lender's going to say, we still need to have you in a business location for the duration of this loan. You can't go homeless. in the middle of this loan period. So let's take a look at your lease to make sure that it's a tenant-friendly lease and that it rolls over or you have a first right to renew. Sometimes loans can hinge on that. So we can shine the light on several areas to help make sure that the borrower is not getting him or herself into hot water.
Hmm. And you're just helping them look at a long range situation to try to make sure that they're going to be as successful as possible and look at hurdles and low bridges that you all have seen in your
Oh yeah.
experience
Oh,
advising clients along the way. So,
yes.
you know, you were talking about the real estate decisions, buying and leasing. You know, a lot of times any move you make is going to have a big money requirement,
Oh, yeah.
down payments, build outs, equipment, moving cost. How do you help them think about the financing of these and what access do they have to capital that will help them to succeed?
You asked like 17 questions
Hmm. Hmm.
out
Hmm.
one sentence. That's a really good question. My God, let's break that down. Um, in the SBA world, there's several products. How's this for jargon I'm throwing at you? Portfolio products, ha ha ha, for folks needing money. Real estate typically falls in it's called the SBA 504 or 504. That number came from somewhere, but in the world, it's a 504 loan. Typically, that's a 25-year loan. Typically, it is at an interest rate that's, a tick favorable to a conventional loan. Terms and conditions are a tick favorable because there's more vetting involved to qualify for an SBA loan. Why? With a conventional loan, who's on the hook should one default? The lender. So they will vet you to their satisfaction. With an SBA loan, as we said at the top of this broadcast, much of that loan is guaranteed by the Small Business Administration. Meaning if you default, the bank's only on the hook for a small portion of that loan, and the American taxpayer is on the hook for a large portion of that loan. So the vetting has to be, what's the word, extra, just to make sure. I mean, that the taxpayer doesn't have to bail out a bunch of people that should not have gotten that loan to begin with. So that's the downside of an SBA loan. But the sweetener is sometimes the terms and conditions can be a little bit more favorable than a conventional loan, which is why business people lean or flock towards starting with the SBA first. The extra hurdles to jump aren't that arduous is worth it over the life of a 10-year 7A loan, which is a working capital loan, or a 25-year real estate loan, which is that 504 loan.
And especially they've had you to help tee them up to be prepared for that level of underwriting as well.
Oh, sure.
So
Sure,
you
sure,
you
sure.
you help them really get to where they need to be, so it doesn't make it as arduous.
That's right. We work closely with lenders to help their borrowers get loan ready. Uh,
Hmm.
for example, typically first-time borrowers got to submit a business plan. And when you say the word business plan to a business owner, they're like, ugh, nails on chalkboard.
Hmm.
It's not a master's thesis we're talking about here. The underwriter does not want to read a dissertation, although we feel a dissertation's got to be written. Honestly, a good master plan, Emilee, business plan, is 10 pages, one-sided, double-spaced. When you pull out all the fluff and the silliness that we try to throw at, the wall, hoping it sticks,
Hmm.
you realize, no, what do they want to know in a business plan? They want to know who are you and what qualifies you to do what you're going to do in the marketplace. Number two, prove to me that you know your market. Number three, prove to me that you can reach your market. Number four, prove to me that you know who your competition is, and prove to me that when your competition reacts to you entering the marketplace, that you have a reaction to their action. You're trying to eat their lunch, they're going to come right back and try to eat your lunch. And fifthly, give us the numbers. Show us historical numbers if they are available in your industry for what you are doing, and then project 24 to 36 months out. And then base your projections on reality, not your own pie in the sky. Well, everybody's going to come buy my product, so I'll have $100 million in sales. Yeah, sure. Let's nail that down. So yeah, we don't write business plans, but we help edit and put meat on those bones. And you know what we're really good at, Emilee? Recognizing when Chat GPT or AI has written a business plan, and we said, look, we're not here to snow a lender. The business plan is for you, the borrower, to prove that you know what you're doing.
Right,
You're not here to prove that you know how to use AI.
right,
So you've got to write it. It's
right.
the writing that you prove that you understand your business concept. And again, it's only 10 pages, double space if it's done right. Anyway, so that's one thing that we do. And then of course we run the numbers to make sure that it pencils, that they can handle the debt service, any other existing debt. We need to consolidate that into a better, more attractive, larger loan, paying off the predatory loans they may have taken out, getting those credit cards off the books, et cetera, et cetera. And then, of course, the customer discovery, all the research that helps them say, yeah, here is your market. Here's your competition. Here where they're located on a map. This is how this is going to play out based on peers in other states who have done this exact same thing you're trying to do here. We don't see any reason why it won't play out this way. There you go, lender.
That's great. I mean, you're providing such a high level of service to these business owners. It's incredible.
And let
And
me build on that. Thank you
yeah,
for that. We've talked rightly so about lending because that's huge, obviously, in the commercial real estate space. But by golly, to your listeners who own commercial real estate businesses, whether they're a sole proprietor or have a suite of agents in their portfolio, we do far more than just help you borrow money. By golly, we help you run your business better. Are you hemorrhaging cash? Are you bleeding cash and you're not even aware of it? We'll do financial analysis privately, confidentially, no loans involved. Just where's your money coming from and where's your going and how's it trending in the areas of occupancy and the areas of labor and the areas of operations? Are you running an efficient operation there? What's your skill set, business owner? And have you shored yourself up a senior management team, if you're that big, that complements your strengths and augments your weaknesses? Every business owner has them. You know, we can help with I call it we scrub your org chart just to make sure you're set up logistically to make the most money, to accomplish, to make that widget, why you got into business to begin with. Honestly, that's our bread and butter. I would like to say, 80% of what we do is independent of lending. It's helping business owners be more efficient and more profitable.
yeah, that's great. So from your office in Chapel Hill, you actually serve a number of counties: Alamance, Chatham, Lee, Orange, Person.
Yes.
What trends do you see in the kinds of spaces, in the kinds of businesses that are starting or, that are ramping up? What does that tell you about our area economy?
I'll quickly explain why you had to list those counties for me. The SBTDC, yep, I got those letters in the right order, has 11 offices across the state of North Carolina. Each office is housed on an institution of higher learning, a public institution of higher learning. So yeah, the Chapel Hill office is physically affiliated with the Keenan Flagler Business School. Our Raleigh office is physically affiliated with NC State. We've got an office at UNC Charlotte and Wilmington and App State. East Carolina University, etc. Why? It enables us to tap into business students, masters of accounting students, marketing students as interns to help our clients, business owners, with internship possibilities that helps advance their companies. So it's kind of a win-win. Students get the real world practical experience, and the businesses get next to free labor for projects. We all know how internships work. So anyway, that's why we are all where we are, and all 100 counties in North Carolina are divvied up among these 11 offices. So where we are in Chapel Hill, you're right, we serve the businesses in Person and in Orange and in Durham and in Alamance and in Chatham and in Lee counties. You asked about what trends and things that we observe in those 6 counties. Well, we have the joy of having 4 major universities in our 6 little, small counties. We've got, UNC, Carolina, the flagship of the whole kit and caboodle. We've got Duke, which is another international university. We've got North Carolina Central, another public institution, a very strong regional player. And we've got Elon in Alamance County, a small private university, that takes second to no one, seat back to no one. Just the nature of universities and the mass of students that they attract means, you get a lot of retail businesses that serve that community. A lot of retail, a lot of restaurants, a lot of hospitality and food service, pizzas, get a lot of bars. So we see a lot of activity in that area. All 4 universities attract parents and fans to sporting events, but what goes sort of unseen to the naked eye are all the professors and academic visitors that come in for symposiums and workshops. They stay at hotels and eat and shop at these same places. So we get a lot of business owners that serve those communities come to us to say, hey, how do we help? How do we overcome the seasonal nature of our 6 communities in retail and hospitality? Sky's the limit when Duke and Carolina and Central and Elon are winning all their games. But if athletics is down and in the summer when nothing's kind of going on, hey, I lost my business. Gangbusters at graduation time. But hey, the last 2 weeks of December is vacant. So we help folks with cash flow analysis and helping them with the seasonality of things. Beyond the periphery of those types of businesses that serve those communities, we've got Research Triangle Park. A lot of that's in Durham County alone, and some of that's in Wake County. But there's the mega gorillas of IBM and Glaxo and whoever else is out there, and then all the supporting businesses that serve the Research Triangle, the big pharma and the biotech communities. They're looking at the same cash flow situations. They're looking at government grants, etc. Those are kind of drying up lately, so they come to us to say, we may need new funding sources. As they have ideas, we help them commercialize their ideas, take their technology and commercialize them. As they need to export, we have an international business team that helps anybody, not just RTP businesses, go across borders. And we have a government contracts team that helps any business that qualifies, that's able to handle government contracts, land those contracts as a prime or a subprime. So we'd like to see ourselves as a holistic, provider of resources that help a business be better. Now, Emilee, I would be remiss if I didn't mention a couple of our friendly, not competitors, but colleagues in this space. There's the North Carolina Small Business Network. They are affiliated with every community college in the state. We have 58 community colleges. We have 58 small business centers. One at Durham Tech. We've got one up in Person. There's one down at Chatham. One down there in Sanford. They actually are better than anybody at helping the small retail, the mom and pops, even the small commercial real estate folks that rely on sales mostly from the community, the city, the county. You know, it's doubtful I'm going to travel across two county lines to go to a restaurant unless it's just, a Michelin kind of place. So smaller businesses would do well to go to the small business network because for counseling, because they're in the community, they're on Main Street. The SBTDC, we're regional. When your sales come from across state lines or regional lines and you're a larger business, we're better for you. And then there's SCORE, another great resource for small business owners, Service Corps of Retired Executives. They're the only organization among us that actually named itself right. Because when I say who they are, you know what they do. Service Corps of Retired Executives. When you need wisdom of the years, someone who's been there and done that, made the mistake you're about to make, has got the best practices to share with you, you definitely want to reach out to SCORE for advice and counseling. And this includes the business owners who are in the commercial real estate, the business of commercial real estate. I would hope they would seek out the Small Business Network or us or SCORE for good counsel to make sure they're running their commercial real estate businesses the best that they can.
Yeah, that's such good insight. It really is. And the depth of services that you all offer from the different global needs, importing, exporting, and just scaling up. It is definitely robust. So as we round out this great interview, I want to just ask for the small business community, what does a good first discussion with SBTC look like? If someone calls your office and says, I need help, we're thinking about moving or expanding or, a number of things, what should they bring with them to make sure that the conversation is the most productive?
Excellent question to conclude with. We don't charge any money, as we've said throughout this conversation. We do require businesses to register. You've got to do that. Why? We're supported by the American tax dollar. We are only allowed, rightly so, to work with American businesses owned by Americans. And the registration process ensures that that is. But outside of that, honestly, for the first meeting, we typically don't ask for financial statements or copies of leases or anything. That very first meeting is a conversation. We're interested, Emilee, in your story. What brings you to us? And in the back of our heads, what we're thinking is we want to make sure that the presenting problem is the real problem. Usually it is, but sometimes it's not. For example, a business owner may come in and say, I can't find good help. Nobody wants to work anymore. That's the presenting problem. They need labor. We'll converse and converse and converse, and we probe, that we have the questions to ask. And we may turn out that that owner's got a management style that's hideous. It could very well be that the presenting problem was not the real problem. The real problem is we need to work with this owner on his or her management style, which is driving away people as opposed to attracting and keeping people. And then we'll kind of professionally and with dignity shift our future counseling to that area. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the first conversation is just a lot of understanding. Why are you really here? What's really going on? And frankly, for the second meeting, we will ask ahead of time, we want 3 years of P&Ls and balance sheets to verify that the numbers are telling the same story that we're hearing verbally. And we'll, again, this is all private and confidential, but a lot of folks do appreciate the financial analysis that we provide. We compare their numbers against industry peers. Say, okay, look, your labor's 40%, which is fine for how you've been running your business, but all your competitors seem to be running at 30% labor. Do you want to talk about that? Oh, you got your brother-in-law on payroll. Well, that makes all the sense in the world. or you live in a very expensive part of the world. You've got to pay more to keep your labor versus somebody in Mississippi. That makes sense. Or you might just say, I had no idea. I'm paying too much for labor. I can actually get away with paying less. Blah, 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 blah. You kind of see where I'm going with that. So a lot of our first conversations are just financial analysis, regardless of what the presenting problems and the real problems are. Let's understand your numbers because by golly, Emilee, in the end, every business decision that is made, every dime that is borrowed and spent, how do you know that was a right decision, business decision? How do you know that was a good expenditure? How do you know that was a good business cut? It all reveals itself on the financial statements.
Right, right.
Sooner or later, it's got to show up in profitability, either in less expense or in greater revenue, better margins. So we understand the financials from the get-go. So then when we do the non-financial counseling, that's our benchmark for success. Did you end up making more money? We're capitalists at heart, and we don't apologize for it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Joel, you are indeed a counselor for our small businesses in this community and throughout North Carolina. I'm wondering if you actually have a nice comfy chair that your clients sit in. But I do want to thank you so much for being a part of this Behind the Building series. And I encourage the viewers to reach out to me as I want to be your resource for all things commercial real estate. I can help connect you with Joel from the SBTDC and other professionals that you need to ensure that you're creating success for your small business and understanding your commercial real estate options. Thank you for joining us, and be sure to keep an eye out for future Behind the Building interviews with other industry professionals just like Joel.